You're not the cloud. Good morning and good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Random Trek. I am your captain, Christopher Ingle, and always joined by my first officer, the man who would let me fall off of El Capitan if he had a chance, just so he could sit in the chair, Commander Brennan, the mystical Mar. Brennan, how you doing?
Life is not a dream.
True, but I'm out of marshmallows.
Hmm.
This week, we are taking a look at Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, which is by far the most controversial of the original series Star Trek films.
That's putting it mildly.
It really is. But of course, as I mentioned previously, we love to have guests, and who better to join me than another Star Trek fan, as well as in fitting theme to this film, my half brother.
You didn't tell me you had a brother.
You never asked.
Hmm.
We did that joke last time, but it's worth it a second time.
It's worth doing again.
Yes, it is. He is a Star Trek fan all of himself. This man actually got me hooked on for a few years Star Trek Online. Thanks for that one. And is just an all-around nerd. I didn't want to give him a rank because I didn't want to disrespect him, because the man actually was in the Navy. Aaron Dye. Aaron, how you doing?
Hello. Yeah, this is cool. I'm glad to be here.
Yes. So Aaron, you and I have talked about this ad nauseum together, but where did your love of Star Trek come from?
Honestly, I started watching it. I started watching it when I was really, really young with my grandparents. They were, obviously big. It was TOS and original Doctor Who and Outer Limits, all that other stuff. And I kind of took an interest into it, but probably, TNG era is when I really got hooked on it from there.
Yeah, we're all of that same generation. Brennan and I are a year apart, so we're all right in that butter zone of TNG, kind of hitting us off. Absolutely. So going into this, of course, we know how synonymous this film is in terms of bad. The idea of the bad Star Trek films, I think, really is culminated with this. So going into this, how did you feel, your initial reactions, Aaron, going into watching this again?
Going in to watch this again, it was oh no, because I haven't honestly watched this one in a very, very long time. And I knew it was the bad one. I was like, okay, I'm gonna sit, I'm gonna do this, and yeah, that's how it's gonna be.
Yeah, it is just what it is when we walk into it. Brennan, how did you feel walking into it?
Well, it's definitely the movie that everybody goes, oh no, not that one.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth of the matter is, I don't mind watching this film. I certainly wouldn't say it's good, but it has moments in it where I go, okay, that moment was okay. So that's what keeps me.
Yeah, objectively,
there are enough elements in it that keep me coming back.
Objectively, it made it worth it watching it again, because there are a few parts in this that I genuinely love. I do. I'll be honest, no spoilers for anyone. It's not enough to make the film a good film.
No.
But put in the right hands, these ideas could have been expanded upon into something magical.
Certainly not Shatner.
Oh, he expanded all right into something magical. That girdle was there for a reason.
Oh yeah.
But let's go ahead and break down this film really quick, kind of give you a taste of what's happened. So this takes place right after 4. The crew has the newly commissioned Enterprise A, but as Scotty would say, it's a bucket of bolts. And it's tore up. It needs a lot of work, and they're getting ready for a shakedown cruise. Meanwhile, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy are camping at Yosemite National Park. 2 movies in a row now, by the way, that we get Brennan, myself, and even Aaron a little local flair local flavor,
Oh yes.
which we
Oh, yes.
absolutely love. But
I have not
there-
been to Yosemite yet. I'll
You've
have
never
to
been to
make it.
Yosemite?
Yeah.
Neither have I. I've lived here my whole life and never been. Crazy, I know. But
I think we have to fix that.
Why
I've
do we
been
go to
told this.
Yosemite? Because it's there.
Only if we're gonna hang around and sing "Row, row, row your boat" and
Can I
marshmallows.
bring that big contraption that Spock has that is like a 23rd century Pez dispenser that dispenses abnormally large marshmallows?
You do know that in 1989, the craft people put out that thing, and it is on eBay
Oh my
available
God.
for you. Yes, I have thought about it. I thought the nerd in me went, I kind of want this.
A marshmallow.
It is
Yes.
a marshmallow.
It just reminds me of the helmet,
The siren helmet.
the bad
Mm.
siren helmet. Yes.
But while they are camping on the planet, and of course Kirk nearly dies, because can't be a movie without Kirk nearly dying. We are taken to the peaceful planet of Nimbus 3, which is a neutral zone based planet where Klingons, Romulans, and the Federation are supposed to build this planet in kind of this ideal utopian, but it really looks like just something out of the Old West with
We're out of
neon
Mad Max.
signs.
Beyond
Yeah, a
Thunderdome.
little Mad Maxy.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's that. Yeah, I
Beyond
got
Thunderdome.
Death
Beyond
Valley. Yeah,
Thunderdome.
we're coming right off of Thunderdome, 1989. That was
Yep.
the whole vibe that I got.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but the Klingon ambassador, the Romulan ambassador, and the Federation ambassador are taken hostage by a mysterious person. We don't quite know who it is yet, but they come in, and there's a distress signal sent out, and of course, everybody, let's play our favorite drinking game. The Enterprise is needed and is the only possible ship that could go take care of this. Yeah, they call the Enterprise and say, we need you. Here's the thing. And we'll get into this in the problems with this film.
Oh.
They say, we don't need the Enterprise. We need Jim Kirk. Why don't you just send Jim Kirk and another ship? A good ship. Like, listen,
Right.
I love the Enterprise, but by Scotty's admission, it's not ready yet.
Put him on the Excelsior. Send him over.
What
You
would
could even
wanna-
you could put him on a Miranda class and get him there fast.
Yeah,
Put him in an Oberth, man. Let's go as low as we can go, man. Let's do this. Anyway, so Kirk and the Enterprise go up despite all the issues that they've got, and they head out to Nimbus 3, where they calculate a plan to rescue the hostages. And they go down to the planet. We've got Kirk and Uhura, Sulu, and a team of Starfleet,
in very,
gung-hos.
very drab uniforms.
Yeah, in a weird drab uniform. But they
Yeah,
go down
that's-
there.
Yeah, I hated that.
We get the Uhura fan dance, which is legendary.
Oh,
We'll talk about that. We will talk about that. But they make it in and manage to take the place, only to find out that this was kind of planned and they were being pulled in. And we meet a Vulcan by the name of Sybok, who Spock seems to know who it is. Spock recognizes him. They all end up, he convinces them to take them up to the Enterprise because they have to to Shakari. He knows where Shakari is. Shakari is basically supposed to be like heaven or the beginning of the universe or so many things to so many people, but it's beyond the Great Barrier at the very center of the universe is what or the galaxy, the galaxy. But he convinces them to go up. However, they get up there, and he uses his mind abilities to somehow convince the crew that everything's going to be okay and nothing's wrong. And the only three he doesn't convince are Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, whom he puts in the brig. And then we get the obligatory, you don't have a brother. I've known you your whole life. If you'd had a brother, I'd have known you had a brother. It never came up. You never asked. So they have that argument.
I need to sit down.
They sit down on a toilet. First toilet in Starfleet history. But they are engineered an escape by Scotty. Scotty blows up the brig and gets them out of there. And they try to warn Starfleet, but unfortunately are eventually captured. And Sybok uses his abilities on McCoy and Spock to relieve them of their pain, which is his ability. When his theory is when you are relieved of your pain, there's no more inhibition, no more holding you back. You can see the truth of existence. And Kirk refuses this and doesn't want this because, as he says, I want my pain, damn it, I need my pain. In a really good speech, actually. Very good speech.
In the most Kirk speech of movie Kirk speeches.
It's true, but at least
I need my pain.
Yeah.
I must have my pain.
My
I'll
pain
buy it.
is what makes me.
Yes, exactly.
But they agree to go ahead and take him to Shaka Ree, if anything, just to keep the ship safe. Meanwhile, they're being followed by this random Klingon commander who wants honor and glory and is going to blow the fuck out of Kirk. Sorry, we don't cuss on this show, but that's what he wants. He wants to blow up Kirk. That's all he wants to do.
The criminal Kirk.
Yeah, we here at Page Turners, do not condone these.
We do not condone.
Language. Yeah,
we do not condone this language or the killing of Captain Kirk. No,
we'll get there. We'll get there.
But they make it.
And according to the Klingons, everyone was harmed in the making of this.
This is absolutely true. They make it to the Great Barrier and pass through and make it to the Shaka Ree planet, where they go down, and it looks strangely like Utah, Monument Valley, maybe Vasquez Rocks. You knew where I was going with that one.
Yeah.
And we meet God. There's no other way to put it. This creature that calls itself God, and says, I need your starship. And of course, Kirk asks the one most quoted question out of this entire movie. What does God need with a starship? Which is the smartest question out of this entire movie.
Apparently.
And what are we told? Shut up, Kirk. You don't ask God that question.
You don't ask God for his ID.
You don't ask the Almighty for his ID.
And they challenge it, and this God basically says, I need it. And even Cybok at some point is going,
wait a
this
minute.
is a little off here. And he kind of merges with the creature, sort of, kind of.
But the creature is him.
Yeah, I don't understand that. And then the Klingon bird of prey shows up and blows up God.
Oh, but wait.
Okay.
Remember, we've got that moment in between there where this movie actually turns into a body horror movie for about 10 minutes. It's weird.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But they make it up. The Klingon ambassador makes the Klingon captain apologize for their actions because they were not on behalf of the Empire. And they go off to Yosemite one more time to sing Row, Row, Row Your Boat with Spock playing a callback. Spock playing the lyre. I love that. And that's how the film ends. Pointless. Just like this film. But
a bit.
As we have to do, what were some of the things you liked in this film? Aaron, let's start with you.
Honestly, the playing up of the relationship of the three obviously is the thing that stands out the most, because I mean that's essentially what this whole movie comes down to is their relationship and their friendship. I also, as much as I like to rag on this movie, I see what Shatner wanted to do with it. I kind of see where he was going. He was, it was the end of the 80s, Star Trek seemed like it was kind of going on its way out, and concurrently running with TNG at the same time. I think he kind of felt that was going to be like the swan song. So I kind of feel like he just wanted to do this big sweeping epic that had all these different influences from different genres. Because I mean, you can see it, like you said, you get that Mad Max bit in the beginning, and then obviously, the forest part, and then the more metaphysical stuff with God and all that other stuff.
Brennan, what did you like?
Well, first off, the musical score is incredible. Jerry Goldsmith delivers yet again.
No, that is true.
Also, the cinematography, and not obviously we'll talk about visual effects when we get to the bad stuff. But in the scenes that don't involve visual effects, the cinematography is actually quite good. That first scene when Slybot comes riding out of the desert, that is a beautiful shot. And some of the stuff on Shakari, the stuff in Yosemite, I mean, it's just gorgeous. So I really like that. I do like the relationships. I think that Lawrence Luckinbill is really quite good at Psylocke. I think he really gives a good performance. And I really like the scene about confronting the past trauma. That whole thing is, I think, really quite good, because I think that does speak to truth that we run into in our lives, which is dealing with loss, dealing with trauma, dealing with repressed feelings. That's really quite special. And also David Warner as the Federation ambassador. I love whenever he would show up in Star Trek. Saint John Talbot, he calls himself. And then I think the Klingon ambassador is actually quite funny. That actor played the Klingon chancellor in The Next Generation.
Yeah, I believe he's Kim Peck.
Which is Kim Peck. Yeah, it was cool to see him again. That's Ambassador Cord, and I think his delivery, even though he only has a few lines, is pretty awesome. And yeah, I just think that there are some things to like. The overall idea, the search for God, the search for meaning in the universe, it's kind of a fascinating idea. That does suffer from poor execution, but is a great idea by itself.
Yeah. For me, the best part of this film is DeForest Kelly's performance, because especially that pain scene when he's facing the death of his father and the guilt that he feels for that.
Let's just say that was a gut punch to me.
That's so good.
Because my grandma died earlier this year in April. And I think that seeing that scene of, McCoy's dad dying and McCoy having to let him go, it hit me in the feels. It really did.
When you honestly, what's funny though about that part, if you frame it with exactly how McCoy is acting in the beginning of the movie when they're in Yosemite and Kirk is climbing El Capitan, and he's just freaking out the entire time.
He's like, human life is too fragile.
Yeah.
But it really explains too. I mean, he was already a doctor by this point, but it goes into that character of McCoy. Now we know why McCoy is a doctor.
And why he's kind of grumpy and kind of. That's just, he's got a lot of trauma.
It's the best acting I've ever seen from him. And this is including some of the good TOS stuff that he does. This is by far just
as far as him trying to deliver a joke, well, we'll get there in a minute.
But yeah, he was really good. Spock's dealing of his birth is an interesting aspect that I really
seeing why his dad has always kind of been against him since the beginning.
The only downside to that is that ends up getting kind of rewritten as time has gone along. That whole idea of Sarek changes heavily.
Actually, it doesn't really. Yeah, no, good point. It is good to know that in the previous film to this, Spock and Sarek had a nice heart to heart, and we know in the original series they really reconciled after years of really not liking each other.
And we know too and of course this is something we'll go into with the connections, but with the Kelvinverse, different universe or not, I'd like to believe that the similarities of the characters are still there, and that Sarek does love him. He does love his wife. He feels emotion. He just chooses as a public figure to work on the suppression, but he feels it. I believe that he does.
Yeah.
And so,
So
you know,
Sarek really went on a journey to have to discover, accept his son as he is.
yeah, I absolutely love that. And I kind of am interested in what would Kirk's pain have been, and I'm betting money that it's the death of his son.
Ooh,
I'm betting
good
money
point.
that that's what it would have been. We never got to see it. We never approached it, but it's the only thing we've really had that we know of, without a question, that probably would have been brought up. But knowing what we know more about Kirk's past, and again, even though it's the JJ verse, you can kind of assume that a little bit of the inverse probably was the situation for him in the Prime timeline. We might have gotten some stuff about his mother and the loss of her and all of that through time, but it's still fascinating.
Could have seen his separation from Carol Marcus.
Maybe.
Or
but I still like his guts to stand there and go, no, you know this, Bones. We need our pain. And I know it's cringy how he does it, but the speech is right. Everything he does is
I have some thoughts on that.
See, me too. I think that speech is layered. Because while on the surface, it is, my pain is what defines me and all, that sort of thing. There's a little bit of subtext too of the whole, this was, supposed to be, kind of the end of the Star Trek franchise, and Kirk coming to terms with the fact that he was getting older, and he was kind of turning into this curmudgeon, as the movies went on. I mean, you go from Wrath of Khan all the way through 6, that whole arc of Kirk's character in himself, which is essentially him coming to grips with the fact that he's not immortal and he knows it.
And also that speech, we'll get there in a second. But I have some thoughts about his ideas.
I'm also a fan, and not at the same time. I always speak on giving Uhura more to do. You need to give Uhura more.
They gave her.
They gave her more to do. And while
I
appreciate that to a certain extent, at the same time, it still very much exoticizes her, if that's a word, and also kind of it creates problems. I love the idea that she's taking her own, and and at her age too, she's using her sensuality, and there's some positive images there. There's some great ideas that I love there, but at the same time, it still feels like they're taking advantage of Uhura and not really using her to her true potential.
And taking advantage of the fact that she's the only female in the crew.
Yeah. And this one, that one, what was it? That one yeoman who couldn't find a place to put Kirk's coat.
That's Kirk. I think that's Shatner's daughter.
Was that Shatner's daughter?
That's Shatner's daughter.
I didn't know that.
One of his daughters. Yes.
I didn't know that.
However, I will say that while the fan scene was a little disappointing in that it wasn't actually Michelle's voice, it should have been. And some of the camera shots are kind of wonky on that, like the guys crawling up the sand dunes. It looked really bad. On the flip side of that, the relationship that her and Scotty are having.
Oh yeah,
Isn't that cute?
I loved it.
That's cute.
Loved it.
That's adorable. It's adorable.
Is cute, and it really is interesting. It's honestly something when I watched it earlier on in my life, it just is one of those things that's like I missed it.
Never
never registered
when I watched it when I was a kid.
Wouldn't
I never
that have
really
been interesting in the JJ verse? What if they had done that in the JJ verse? What do you think?
Still think it's interesting she went with Spock in the JJ
well,
verse.
Yeah.
That was still
it would have been interesting to see Simon Pegg and Zoe Saldana. That would have been pretty funny.
I gotta say, I cannot see those two together. I do not see it.
Oil and water.
Actually, you know what? No, I want to see Zoe Saldana hitting on was it Sneezer or Skeezer or
Skeezer, yeah.
Just for the hell of it. Just like it turns out that he's really this ladies' man. He's a ladies' Keenzer, yeah. Well, I say Sneezer because in the third movie. Yeah.
I
But
thought you were
no,
talking about Tiny Toons.
yeah. Anyway, oh yes. Hello, Mister. How are you? Anyway, I know where they're
Different
at.
show. Different
Different
show.
show. But no, overall, still to give the character something that is of relevance to the plan and the plot, and it empowered her. I like that. I just feel also at the same time that they're really using her exotic elements as a woman, as a black woman, and not in a positive way. It felt very stereotypical.
That okay, while I can agree with you on that, the fact of the matter is that she knew exactly what she was doing. So
That doesn't still make it
that
okay.
part of it.
That still doesn't necessarily make it okay. And it just feels like this very odd middle place, especially in
Yeah, no,
1989.
yeah, no, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
It's like I'm not outright going, why is this here? But I'm not
But
outright going, yes, I'm glad this is here.
yeah,
It's
Yeah.
got its problems in
Yeah.
both parts.
yeah,
One of the first papers I ever wrote was in college was on feminism and Star Trek. And I focused on the treatment of Uhura as a character.
right.
And I feel, when we're going almost we're 20 years past here, you would think could be some improvements done for the character of Uhura. And while again, we're giving her something meaningful to the plan, I love that. It still feels like we needed a sex object, and we're going to do something that's very tribalistic, very sensual, very, it feels a little derogatory to her as a woman,
Good
as a
point.
black woman.
Good point.
That's
Yeah,
all
no,
I'm
no,
saying.
no,
It's
you're
just,
right. No,
it's,
absolutely.
Well, at least it's not as bad as that one episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation
oh, are we gonna?
with the
It's
African tribes people.
oh, yeah, that was before this, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was before this, but still, I'm with you on that.
Code of honor. Code of honor.
All right, so yeah, let's hit the hard stuff here.
Oh boy, here we
What?
go.
Didn't we like about this film?
Oh,
What
We'll let
didn't we
let our
like?
guests go first on this one.
The third act. The third act was really, really bad. I wanted more from the Klingon captain. And the ending of that little subplot, going into Star Trek 6 just absolutely blows my mind. But yeah, the third act, I wanted more from the Klingon captain. And I think maybe a little bit more into like maybe give Cybok a little more aggression whenever he's trying to dig into the three main characters' pain, specifically when he gets to Kirk. It kind of seems like Kirk makes that speech and he just gives up, and he's like, yeah, whatever, okay, that's fine, I won't do it to you. I think that a person who was literally stealing a Federation starship from the neutral zone and committing multiple war crimes to go to the center of the galaxy and find God wouldn't just give up after the first try.
I think that's more to his character, though, and this is something that the pizza has arrived.
Yes.
Thank you, Shauna. We'll get her on the show one of these days. Anyway, Shauna, what are your feelings of Sub Rosa?
Ooh.
That's the joke on this show.
No,
we don't want to talk about Sub Rosa at any point, right. But we know one day.
One day we'll have to talk about it.
God. But no, the thing with Cybok is interesting to me, and I'm going to connect it once we get to how it connects. Thank you, Strange New Worlds, for giving us a taste. I'd like to think that this is a guy who truly does not believe in combat, in fighting. This is a guy who does not want to. He believes in what he's doing. He is a prophet in his own mind, at the very least.
He is an extension of the 80s obsession with televangelists.
That's true.
Yeah,
very
that's
true. If
Which
that's
is a
not Pat
weird-
Roberts, if that man is not secretly Pat Roberts, I don't know what is.
Which I always thought though was a weird like dichotomy in the fact that he was in touch with his emotions to the detriment of, him being exiled from Vulcan society. But as far as violence was concerned, he was a complete pacifist.
Interesting, yes.
But I like that aspect of it. So the idea of choice is a really good thing here, because like any good cult leader, they're not going to sit here and go, you believe this now, or no, they're going to manipulate you. They're going to make you feel and think that you are, and he's a cultist. Don't tell me he's not.
Oh yeah.
He is a cultist. But he's not going to force you to do it. You have to do it of your own free will.
You have to come to it on your own. Yeah.
And
That's
he
why
knows that.
share the pain.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
And he
at
has the
least
power.
make it seem that way.
Right.
Yeah. So that doesn't bother me too much. That whole him giving up, that feels to character that of what we know so far.
Right.
It feels to character to me, and I'm okay with that. The thing that I don't like though is we don't really know a whole hell of a lot of this guy to really care. We don't.
He's Spock's half brother. That's it.
That's all
That's
we have.
literally all we get.
That's not enough. Why is he
and
searching?
he's not logical.
Why is he searching for God? Why was he exiled? Now, again, Strange New Worlds. Thank you. You're starting to build on this, and I like that you're giving us more. But if we have to watch this in a bubble and we can't count that yet, you're not giving me anything.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with God too. Like, I don't what is this deal with God? What does he want? Why is he trapped there? Why do we care? I have too many questions of not caring.
If he's God, why is he trapped?
Right.
What's going on here? We needed more. And our antagonists are not enough in this film. They're just terrible antagonists.
That's true.
And Captain Claw is completely superfluous.
As we saw in Star Trek 4, you can have a Star Trek film without bad guys. And I'm great with it. Star Trek 4 did it perfectly. So if you're going to do that here and make him sympathetic, then make him sympathetic. But you have to give us more into their background. You have to give us more. And they don't do that. They rush it too much, which I think in the end,
the pacing
this
of
is the greatest flaw in this film. I'm sorry, Shatner. It's the writing and the directing.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
The greatest flaw in this is your writing and your directing. You had everything handed to you on a plate. And let's face it, Shatner actually is a great writer. I've read quite a few of his Star Trek novels. He's a good writer.
Tech Wars wasn't that bad either.
Yeah, no, these are fucking great shit. The ones I read too, he did a trilogy that took place right after Generations, where where he was resurrected by the Borg. And I was like, that's interesting. That's interesting. And it's some fascinating stuff. And he goes back and forth between Kirk and Picard, and this is good. Like, I like where you're going with this. What happened here? Was it because you had too much power? Was it that, and we'll talk about it a little bit. The studio
might have been a problem.
The studio and Hard Bennett were.
Hard Bennett might have been a problem, yeah.
They slashed the budget so bad on this. It was bad. So, Brennan, you've made allusion to this. Let's talk about those special effects.
Well, ILM, I guess, was swamped that year.
I wonder why they were swamped.
Yes, 1989. Wow, what a year.
It couldn't have anything to do with Last Crusade, Ghostbusters 2, Batman,
Ghostbusters, Who Framed Roger Rabbit,
Maybe.
any one of those.
Yeah. Yeah, the visual effects are awful. Let's just call it what it is.
The shuttle zooming into the
outright reused in some places.
Yeah. So the visual effects are awful. That's all I gotta say.
It is not good.
So I've got a laundry list of things. Let's begin with the fan dance. That is maybe the cringiest moment in all of Star Trek. Is watching that scene. Because it's just like, what are you doing? The costumes are terrible. The cult costumes are, very Mad Max. They look okay. These Federation battle outfits are so drab. Also, the sets are really bad. The movie set. This on the ship, some of the tunnels, some of those corridors are kind of bad.
So, some of those corridors were TNG
Enterprise D. I pointed it out. I was watching.
And the sick bay.
Do you know why they do that? I found out why they did that. And what's very interesting, besides cost big. We already got ship, in interiors. Why are we going to mess with this?
Yeah.
This is a neat thing. You can see this in every film that does this. When they use a interior design that is clearly from another series or another one, they either film it at a very low angle or a very high angle.
Yeah.
You could see this here in this film, referencing this. And then in First Contact, and we love First Contact here. We love First Contact. The reuse of the Voyager sets, especially sick bay, they angle it up at a higher angle so you're not looking at it at the same view that you would when you were watching
it on Voyager, right?
They do that on purpose because it saves money. But no, this is different. It's very different. They reuse all the time. The briefing room in 6 is just a rehash, I believe, of the Enterprise D briefing room. It's just flipped.
Yeah.
And added a bar. They added a bar to it or something.
Yeah.
This is not an uncommon practice. It's not a great practice, but I understand it from a money perspective.
Let's see, what else do I have on my laundry list? Well, I think that the Shatner's acting is the worst here. I think this might be his worst acting in Star Trek.
I can agree with that.
Or at least worst acting in the movies. On the show, he had some worse moments, I think. Yeah. And I like the the story is not very engaging. The pacing is all over the place. The pacing is insane. You are looking at, it's an hour into the movie before we even figure out what Cybuck wants. And also, oh my word, do we have to talk about it? The 3-breasted cat lady.
Vanessa. Vanessa.
Oh, she has a name? I didn't know that.
No, this is I will say this is a joke that comes from the Nostalgia Critic. The Nostalgia Critic critiqued this film, and he talked about how there, as the studios were going, okay, Mr. Shatner, you have a 3-breasted cat, Vanessa. She's absolutely crucial, Vanessa. So I will never forget that her name is Vanessa. Even if that's not her name, she will always be Vanessa.
I mean, that was just completely ridiculous. And in Kirk's fight scene with Vanessa is just like, oh my gosh.
The James Brown samples.
Yeah, and it's like a furry's dream or something.
Yes.
But I mean, oh my gosh, and all the attempts to throw in a joke every 5 seconds.
No.
Most of which fall completely flat.
Yeah. A lot of that, again, studio influence and the contention between Shatner and the studio. And in the end, I mean, you remember hearing the story about the rock monsters? I kind of wanted to see the rock monsters.
Well, I think that would have made this movie even worse.
In the end, there was supposed to be a fight. Instead of just with God, there were going to be a fight with these rock monsters. And they apparently did a mock-up. They built one up. They even filmed test footage with it, but it has been lost to time.
Yes, would this be like Shatner fighting the Gorn with the really cheesy fight moves?
Oh, yeah, the ground was supposed to fall away, and it was supposed to be like a fiery pit. It was supposed to be more,
oh my gosh.
Which is why it's why in Galaxy Quest we get Nesbitt fighting a rock monster.
Because that's actually the exact ones from 5. They just they took them over to Galaxy Quest. Hey, let's use them.
And they're better looking. I
Oh
guess.
Yeah,
my
they are.
word!
Yeah, they are.
Wow. Yes, I mean it is.
And that's the other part
So,
too.
I mean,
The studio
yeah.
did that 1 hour 45-minute cut too. Shatner's original cut was supposed to be like 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah,
and
the
then
movie
he had
I
to
think
shave all that
is
off.
shorter than I mean. I don't
Yeah.
know if more time would have helped or just better editing.
The studio had a lot of hopes for this thing. They ended up giving it a $33 million budget and were expecting it that summer to make nearly $200 million. That's what they were expecting. And again, as I've mentioned,
of course, they
this
made a
was
terrible mistake because this is 1989.
They were going up against Last Crusade, Ghostbusters 2, Batman. Like, this was huge. In fact, up to this point,
Back to the Future Part 2, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Or Part 3. I forget.
But was it right there at that point in the summer?
I don't know, but it was a big year.
Yeah. But the point is that they really thought it was going to beat it. They absolutely thought that and were so wrong. It made 17.4 million. It beat the opening for Voyage Home, which gave them hope at first, but then the number of theaters, the averages were not working out, and it kept falling and dropping.
Falling like Kirk down the side of El Capitan.
Yeah, it ended up making double its budget, almost 66 million. But then you throw in the amount of advertising and hey, by the way, guys,
the trailer of it.
I sent you in our private chat an eBay listing for this marshmallow thing. I say we each chip in $5 and we can own a piece of Star Trek history.
Oh man!
And by the way, I have to add have you seen the trailer to this movie?
So bad.
Terrible.
So bad.
It gives away everything. And it's played up like a comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And the bad voiceover and just like, oh my gosh.
God, it's
the days of voiceover are no longer with us.
Yeah. Now,
and I say thank goodness.
Here's the good thing that I get out of this film. You want to know what it is? It's all collectors. I'm going to tell you right now on the collectors market. When this came out, VHS obviously is booming, right?
Mm-hmm.
They release a 5-volume set of Star Trek's 1 through 5. That's cool. And it's the Enterprise on it, and it's really cool. When they came out with 6, they redid the set and added the 6th one. That 5-volume set is one of the most expensive Star Trek at-home memorabilia that you can find on the market if you can find that 5-piece set. Thank you, Star Trek 5. You gave us something that I could never hope to own in my collection at any given time. Yeah, they dropped the ball in every way on this film.
The list just goes on. And despite some of its good things, what's bad about it far outweighs what's good about it.
I'm going to throw a bonus category into this discussion because I think we've got the two guys here who can make this happen.
Okay.
Gentlemen, give me your elevator pitch of how this film should have been done if Leonard Nimoy was in charge instead of Shatner. Nimoy comes back for a 3rd film. What do they do in this film instead? I mean, you could take elements from this, you can keep the, but what are the major differences and the selling point for this film? Because I'm convinced if Nimoy had done it, this would have been way better. Way better. Or if you want to dump Nimoy and give it to someone else, fine. But hey, I hear this young guy, Jonathan Frakes. I hear he's a great director.
Right. Honestly,
man,
I can't even. You know what? I can't even think of how I mean, I could maybe think of an elevator pitch to try and actually sell this movie and sell it hard, would just be like Kirk fights God. That's it. Honestly, that's it. That's the movie.
That's actually probably all Shatner gave.
Kirk punches God. I mean, that's it. I mean, I don't know. You could have given us a little bit more going into undiscovered country, why the Klingons were, wanting to take Kirk and put him on trial. You could have given us a little bit more than that, but other than that, yeah, that's probably where I'm at with it.
I've got this, guys. I've got this. This idea was later done in TNG, but I'm going to take it and back it up a little bit. Do you remember the episode of TNG where there was a race to collect these artifacts? That when you put all the pieces together, the one with the message about the origin of life, basically in the galaxy,
why everyone's humanoid.
You take
the female Odo or whatever she is.
Yeah. You take that idea, expand it, but put tension between Romulans, Klingons, and the Federation. And it results in everybody's got a piece. We want to figure out what this message is, and it's leading us through the Great Barrier. And maybe Cybok is a factor in here too. I'm not against that. You could have Cybok. I'm fine with that.
You could even still have the vision.
Yeah.
That he's sent, like he has some precognition about this in whatever way, and he's just kind of trying to accelerate everything.
And then you have them go in, and then they meet God together. And what we discover is of course, maybe it's not the same result that the chase had, but the species for that brief moment learn to work together. They're working together for a common goal. And then the ending of the film, when all of them are on the Enterprise, chalking it up and drinking Romulan ale, makes more sense.
Right. I mean, you could even still have, the malevolent God, that you could still even have that happen.
We've evolved beyond this. We all know powerful in this.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think?
Here's an idea. A Klingon, a human, and a Romulan.
Walk into a bar.
Yes. No. A member of each species claims to have been contacted by God. Claims that they're receiving visions. And somehow hijack the Enterprise. And, go on a quest that way. But I think you could take the same kind of basic idea. I think it's better writing, a better direction. It could have been really interesting.
Yeah.
That's all I got. There's not much.
I think it's there. I think the idea that was left behind that sucks is the three species together in this utopian planet, but still, this idea of them actually working together was not something that we ever really got in TOS or TNG successfully. It never really happened.
Yeah.
So this is good. This is good ideas right here that you could build off of, and they do nothing with these representatives. Why was the Romulans not chasing after? If a Romulan ambassador was, you don't think the Romulans would be after them? I think they would. Shoot, Praxis blows up. We're gonna send a Romulan insurgent to stop this crap. They send someone.
It would have been really cool to see more Romulans. In there.
The Romulans were better developed until TNG. TNG did great for Romulans. And that's another thing, by the way. The Romulan makeup for this young lady, she looks more Vulcan than Romulan.
That's
by
true.
then, we've
true.
established what Romulans look like.
Right.
She looks Vulcan, not Romulan. Get it right. There is a difference. A subtle one, but there's a difference. I just think this could have been so much better if this was a philosophical idea of the idea of our nature and who we truly are, and that we are not so dissimilar, which feeds into those themes of later of fear and what are we willing to do with Star Trek 6. It makes sense.
Yeah.
It would have been logical and it would have been good. This was just someone gave Shatner money and Shatner went, ooh. You ever give a kid a stocking full of candy on Christmas and then don't tell them what to do with it? Where does that candy go?
Gone,
and we get a stomach ache by about 4 o'clock.
And they're bouncing up the walls.
And that's what we got with Shatner. We got a stomach ache. All right. We got to connect this to the greater world. So, Cybok. Thank you, Strange New Worlds. I can't say it enough for introducing Cybok as a potential reoccurring villain. The idea with Angel, the ideas that were presented of Vulcans that believe differently. It was slightly done in Enterprise. I think this is really touching on it more.
Yeah.
And if this gives us Cybok as the villain we're expecting, then Star Trek V, you got lucky. Really, because then it makes Star Trek V valid. In a way, it will.
And you'll be able to go back and watch it and, you know, catch little bits of subtext from Lawrence Luckenbill's performance and be like, oh, okay, I see why he did that now.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, in Greater Star Trek World, I made reference to it. First time we ever saw a toilet. First toilet in Starfleet history. Yes. I remember asking that when I was a kid. Where do they go to the bathroom? Never really solved that question. But yeah, the idea of the peaceful planet. I love this idea. This is something that would be touched on in future episodes. They would try something similar. You know, ideas of neutral planets and neutral territory, and we're going to work together and work it out. I would even argue Birthright. You and I, Brennan, have talked about Birthright in TNG with Worf and the Romulans and the Klingons, how they actually live in a cohesive nature. I like those ideas. And I still think they're born in this idea of this planet, even though this planet was, you know, just a Mad Max knockoff. It's fine.
A complete joke.
Yes. Also, the first canon live action appearance of a Cetacean or a Kzinti. I don't know which she is. She's one of them. Vanessa is either a Cetacean or a Kzinti.
I think she's a Zinti.
I have no idea, but we only really get them in animated form now.
And there is that one. There is actually one who is a Starfleet admiral.
Oh, in the
in Star Trek VI at the trial. He's back in the rafters. You can barely see him, but they've got some production stills of the makeup, and the makeup was really well done.
In Star Trek 4, you get two of them.
That's right. It's still in the gallery, all in the gallery.
Yeah,
you're right. You're right. I forgot about that. Still, we never really get.
You don't really see it.
Those are Cations.
Those are Cetaceans.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I confuse the species, but obviously they're very similar.
Cations.
They're very similar, but I love the Kzinti. It's the only thing in Star Trek the Animated Series that I love. And we get a Kzinti in Lower Decks regularly. Thank you.
Thank goodness.
Yes. Otherwise, nothing else in this film really plays out. And we also get a broken Enterprise, which kind of makes sense in that if we're under the understanding that the Constitution class is on its way out, them getting another Enterprise isn't the gift we think it is by the end of 4. There are actually a lot more issues that are going on here than we thought. And that shows that them getting it was more of a kind of, listen, you saved our lives. We had to give you the slap on the wrist where we did, but we'll give you a ship, but it's not going to be what you think.
Isn't that class about like 50 years old at that point in time?
It seems like it, but
something like that.
The question I have, like, how long has this been since Star Trek 4?
Not very long. Not very long at all. It's right after it.
Yeah.
Because they have not repaired the ship. They're still in dry dock aboard the is it Starbase 1? Starbase 1.
Yeah.
They're still there and they're repairing it. He's been working on it. Scotty says months.
They're not in dry dock. They're just sitting in orbit.
No, they're not in orbit. They are in because you see I thought they were inside having it worked on.
Yeah. Yeah. The shuttle comes up.
Comes
up and goes.
That's right. That's right. Yes.
And they use the same shot of the Excelsior. They use that same shot
every time.
Okay, I'm looking canonically. Yes, this is a year after Star Trek 4.
So it's a year.
Oh.
It's taken a year to try and fix this ship, and they haven't been able to fix it yet.
Star Trek 4 is 2286. Flight is 2287.
That tells you something right here. Like, this shows that Starfleet, though, thanked him, we're still giving Kirk the shaft.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and maybe I'm crazy,
Well,
maybe
Scotty,
this is Starfleet's way of saying, hey, take the Enterprise out. She's not ready yet. Well, if you can't do it, then I guess we need to put you out to pasture. I think this is their way. Aaron, as my resident military expert for the moment, would this be something that a military organization might try to do to get an aging officer away?
Absolutely.
Give them kind of a busted up bucket of bolts that they got to work with. And if they can't complete the mission, I guess you're not up to it. It's time to put you out to pasture.
No disrespect to the USS Rust-Oleum.
There's a reference.
Well, I'm just happy there's a USS San Jose now.
No, that's a California class ship. We'll talk about those another time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, California class. And shout out to the USS Merced.
Woohoo!
I would serve on that ship. There's a Kazinti. All right.
I ain't serving on USS.
Actually, I think the captain seriously is like a Bolian. A Bolian.
Have they seen the Monterey yet?
Is there a Monterey? I wouldn't doubt it.
I think so. I want to say
list
that.
them all.
I want to say that's one of the ones that hasn't shown up yet.
Hold on. They listed them, or all of them are listed. They all show up in that episode. We just took a side,
which is the great.
Yeah. California class Star Trek. There we go. And you know what? I don't care what anyone says. I actually love the design of the California class.
I do too.
It still seems like something to me that actually we would have seen in the original series era.
I do too. I like it.
Oh, thank you. My child brought me chocolate.
Yeah, I want it.
Thank you.
And you tried to
Let me see if I'm trying to see if we've got a name of all the ships.
No Monterey yet.
There it is. The Alhambra, Anaheim, Burbank, Carlsbad, Cerritos, Culver City, Eureka, Fresno, Inglewood, Merced, Mount Shasta, Oakland, Pacific Palisades, Redding, Riverside, Rubidoux, Sacramento, San Clemente, San Diego, San Jose, Santa Monica, Sherman Oaks, Solvang, Vacaville, Vallejo, and West Covina.
All right, I guess I'll have to settle for the San Jose then.
And Bakersfield and Ventura.
Yeah. Anyway, they all show up in the finale of the season 3 finale of
nice.
Lower Decks. But anyway,
Good
I
stuff.
digress. It's treated the Constitution class at this point is treated how Lower Decks treats the California or the California class.
It's an aging platform, you know.
Yeah.
But this is not an uncommon
Being
thing
phased
in
out.
military, right?
Phased
I mean,
out.
like when you start to
No.
have a class of vessel that is just aging out, it's just not working. It's time to go, and it's either a training vessel, it's sank for things like that, or something like that.
Yeah.
That's what they do
or in the case of aircraft, they just kind of sell them.
sell them to the Russians. Oops.
Private owners. That was the thing. I know I've told you this before, but if by the time they started moving all the F-14 pilots and the technicians and everything like that over to the F-18s, there were stories going around that, hey, if the F-14s don't have hydraulic fluid leaking out of them or something busted or duct tape hanging onto them somewhere, there is a problem. And at that point in time, they had been in service for 40 years.
But you're in this part, you're absolutely right. I mean, they are they've been around a while.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking at least 3 by my count 5-year missions.
Yeah.
5-year mission under Pike, 2 5-year missions under Kirk.
And if we do go by the Strange New Worlds timeline, there was a 10-year mission by Admiral April before Pike even came on.
Right. Yep. So the Constitution class has been around for quite a while. And that was at that point. Where are we now as we're in our Monster Maroons and hanging out and, all of that? So it makes sense that this ship is on its way out. I buy this. I buy that 100%. And I like that because that does play down the line into, and I think it connects to Star Trek 4. in that regard as the consequence for Kirk's actions. Yeah, we'll give you a ship. You blew up your ship. We'll give you another one, but it's a piece of crap. And they know it.
You're going to have to earn it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Final thoughts on this movie.
I hope that the Strange New Worlds writers give us a reason to go back and watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Brendan?
This movie currently doesn't add a lot. Star Trek. You could skip it. It wouldn't affect anything really in your understanding of Star Trek. I would say watch it once. See if you connect with the ideas, and also come to see it just once. You can see an inept movie. But if it works for you, it's fine. Give it a shot. You probably won't be desirous to go back to it more than once.
This is the Halloween 3 of the Star Trek franchise for me.
Oh my God, yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
You don't need it. It's not important. I love the ideas you tried to do. Don't get me wrong. Love the ideas. Execution was poor. That's what this comes down to. You can skip it and you don't miss a dang thing. However, again, I think the connections I've made are valid and I think it's a natural connection, but I don't feel like this was worth a movie. In fact, I will even say I would read the novelization just to find out if it's that much better.
Yeah.
The book we all know is usually better. So I'm curious if the book could make this film any better.
Oh, I love what they do with the whole idea of God in the Q continuum with this story. It's like I think I want to say they did it like 10 or 12 years later, but there's a whole reason why they locked him up. It's dealing with the Q, and he's just like a really nasty character and everything like that.
Wouldn't that have been great if this guy was a Q or something to that? Oh,
I want to say because I read this on Memory Beta. It's in the entry somewhere. If you go and read it, you can see it too. The entity's original name was Zero, not the word zero, but the numerical digit 0, and it has something to do with like he's a proto Q or something like that.
Interesting.
Really strange.
Yeah.
Very.
That is what it is. Absolutely. Well, we've been through it. We survived, but we have to move along. We move on along down the line. Next week, we actually are going backwards in time. We are moving along next week to season 3 of TOS, All Our Yesterdays.
All right.
So, but unfortunately, Brennan and I have not had much luck with TOS episodes. Hopefully, this will be better. I hope so, because we've had some bad stuff from the third season. But yeah. So, Aaron, got anything to plug? Where can the people find you?
I am on the socials all over the place. You can find me under Festering Ruin, any kind of those names. I'm on the Tiki Tax and all that other stuff too.
Brennan, where can the people find
you? You can find me on Twitter at Brennan Mystical. You can also follow this podcast network on Twitter at Page Turner's Pod. That's Page Turner's _pod. You can also find me on Twitch, Brenmar, BRENNMARR. You can find me on Instagram at Brennan Blue. You can follow us on YouTube at Page Turners They Were Not. And catch us here, wherever you get your podcasts.
And of course, you can catch me on Twitch, on Twitter at Ingle1984. You can also find me on Patreon, in the Dan Murrell Patreon, Mark Riley, Video Drew, the Let's Get Ready Network, where I have recently been asked to be a regular contributor on the Let's Get Ready Network. So I will be doing shows periodically with them from time to time as a guest host or a guest contributor, and I'm really honored that they've asked me to join the crew. And of course, you can find me here every week captaining this ship